Happy Monday. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for being with us. I'm Maria Bartiromo, and it is Monday, February 27th. Your top stories right now, 7:30 a.m. on the East Coast. Busy day for the commander-in-chief today. President Trump meeting with both health insurance companies and our nation's governors as he looks to take on Obamacare. This coming as the president will reportedly issue a new executive order on the travel ban this week. Democrats are blasting the president on his plans over the weekend. Listen.
We've got to open up the party to working people, to young people, and make it crystal clear that the Democratic Party is going to take on Wall Street. It's going to take on the greed of the pharmaceutical industry. It's going to take on corporate America that is shutting down plants in this country and moving our jobs abroad.
The border tax is a disaster for the economy. Countries around the globe are not going to sit there and wait for this. They will reciprocate immediately against the United States of America.
What to expect from the new executive order coming up this morning. Meanwhile, the future takes flight. How you can soon get behind the wheel of the first ever certified flying car. Wow. Futures this morning look like this. We are coming off of 11 straight record highs. Markets looking to pull back this morning, just a fraction. Of course, we did close at another 11th record high on the Dow on Friday. Markets right now are looking fractionally down. In Europe, markets are mixed. FT 100 up, DAX index is up, and CAC 40 is down. In Asia overnight, stocks were lower across the board, as you can see there. Well, a mumps outbreak hits an NHL team. The latest is the Vancouver Canucks are forced to quarantine several players. And from empty gas tanks to major crashes, we've got the highlights from this year's Daytona 500 coming up this morning. First, though, we kick it off here this half hour. The Department of Justice requesting a hold on a proposed appeal to the president's original immigration executive order. Now, that order restricted travel from 7 primarily Muslim countries. This is the Trump administration readies a second version of that temporary travel ban, one that numerous administration officials have promised will stand up to another attempted lawsuit. It's expected to come this Wednesday. Congressman Michael McCaul, who is the head of the Homeland Security in the House committee, told me what tweaks he wants to see, and he's expecting this weekend on Sunday Morning Futures.
I think what they're going to do is tailor it to conform with what the courts came down with. I think the problem was in the implementation, not the policy of the executive order, and that was denying lawful permanent residents who have green cards the ability to come back into the United States. And I think that's what caused a lot of the chaos after the executive order was issued in the implementation of it.
We want to bring in Fox senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano right now. And Judge, you know,
Morning.
Michael McCaul just got back from the border, the southern border. He went there with Paul Ryan and other lawmakers, and he said that they're porous. He said the challenges facing the people right at the front lines are significant.
I don't think there's any question about that. The issue is what legal mechanism will allow the president to prevent the borders from being porous without violating the Constitution or without impelling judges to interfere with the border security because they believe, rightly or wrongly, that the president's violating the Constitution. So we're not dealing with legislation here that's set in stone that has to go back to the Congress and has to be amended. We're dealing with an executive order that the president could just as easily tear up and start all over. We also have the advantage of 4 judicial opinions picking this apart. So I've suggested, and I'm going to guess that this is what they did. Some very bright lawyers in the Justice Department took those opinions, made a checklist of all the objections, and came up with a rational basis to address each of those objections and still keep the goal in mind, which is to have a more secure way of vetting people who come into the country from parts of the world where it is unreasonable for us to think that they don't wish us ill.
Isn't one of the concerns about the Ninth Circuit's decision was that they used certain criteria that was not really applicable to making that decision? For example, they were using things Donald Trump said on the campaign trail, things some of his surrogates may have said on the trail. And isn't that by itself a basis to suggest that there is a very big challenge regardless of what they rewrite in this new order?
I could not agree with you more. One of those judges is a classmate of mine. I've known him for 45 years. And I was surprised that the things that they put in that opinion, like here's what Rudy Giuliani said when he introduced the president in August. What does that have to do with the meaning and purpose of an executive order? Here's what candidate Trump said. Tony, I have never seen that in 45 years of examining legislation and executive orders and governmental decisions, that a candidate's words would be used against him or her once the person is in office.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And we also have the problem now with a leaked DHS report undermining the choice of the 7 countries as 7 problematic areas, saying, I don't know how anybody with common sense could say this, but some experts in the DHS say that people from these 7 countries are no worse, no more of a threat than any other country.
So how come it was Obama's list?
Good point.
That's exactly right.
Well, and everybody forgot about that at first, too. Remember when those countries came out? It's like, oh, wait a second. Actually, this is something that Obama mentioned right as he was
He
exiting.
took this from the former president.
But the politics should stay out of the courtroom because the Constitution reposes to the president primacy in the area of foreign policy. He decides who our enemies are. He decides who our friends are. And there's a statute directly on point. Just read the plain words of the statute. The president may suspend, in his own discretion, the immigration rights of any person or group for a reason affecting public safety.
U.S. Code 1181 and U.S. Code 1182 that came out of the Chicago Southern Airlines Waterman steamship ruling, which the judge said, the court said, we should not have jurisdiction over national security. It should be kept to the executive and legislative branches because they're the most directly accountable to the people.
So when a court forces the president to justify a national security decision, you have a lot of problems that are raised by that. The public should not know. The court should not know the president's thinking as he decides what national security decisions to make, because it's based on classified material. There are provisions to expose classified material to judges. It's very difficult, very complex, and in my view, unnecessary in this case.
Judge, do you think that, let's say this next executive order comes out and another judge puts a temporary restraining order on it, what then? Because again, you get this back and forth. I mean, even the revision, President Trump still cuts the number of refugees coming into this country by more than half.
President will continue to be able to say to his base, look, I did what I told you I was going to do, and these people continue to frustrate me. But this is not a game. You're talking about the national security of the United States.
Do judges know that?
Of course they know that. I mean, they read newspapers like the rest of us do. You know, I was once a life-tenured judge, and it's very, very liberating. You are liberated even from the politicians and political forces that got you to that point in your life. But you're not living like a monk. You know what's going on.
I want to ask you about the Supreme Court.
The rug doesn't have a hood.
But talking about this whole idea of what people are looking at, what Donald Trump said on the campaign trail versus what his policies are right now. Yesterday on Sunday Morning Futures, I had on Congressman Langevin, who has been leading this effort for Democrats to bring a guest to the president's speech tomorrow night.
Right.
And he's bringing a Pakistani doctor who is an American. He's a Muslim American who's done very well. And I tried to make the point that, you know, are you making a difference between legal and illegal? I mean, what's the point of bringing these guests tomorrow night when no one is saying that we don't have a diverse country? We want diversity in our country. But, like, the grandstanding, Dagan, I mean, like, wouldn't you rather see these people come to the speech, sleeves rolled up, saying, I'm ready to work with the president to get the people's business done?
They're not going to, that's not going to happen. Nobody's going to get...
They're all bringing these guests.
I think Dagan's 100% correct.
They're not
because
going to
the attitude that Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi have taken, the respective leaders of the Democrats in the Senate and the House,
it's not the
is
point that
resist,
Donald Trump's
resist,
making.
resist, rather than cooperate.
Yeah.
And that
That's their
makes,
narrative,
correct.
right? I mean, they have to
That's
back
why
that
Donald
up.
Trump, after nearly 2 months in office, still does not have a full cabinet. He's yet to have a cabinet meeting with everybody there.
Obstructionism.
But
They know,
Maria?
you know, let's put some of the shame on the Republicans, though, who are defying the president's wants and wishes and what he's trying to do in terms of moving legislation, not just in terms of immigration. Because Nancy Pelosi said yesterday on one of the Sunday morning talk shows, in terms of the repeal of Obamacare, talking about the Republicans, they don't have the votes. They're not going to be able to repeal it. Because she knows that, because again, they've got 52 votes in the Senate, if they can flip more than 2.
Well, there's a
He
gaggle.
almost didn't get his cabinet because they didn't have the
exactly.
vote.
There's a gaggle of Republican senators who do not want to increase the deficit.
Yeah.
And they don't want to vote for any legislation that would force the government to borrow more money. So they are probably not going to be for this thing. Although one of them, himself a physician, Rand Paul, has proposed a very, very, very free market base. Your prior guest would have loved it.
I think that's what everybody's going to get behind.
That's the one that makes the most sense, and it doesn't cost the government any money.
Yeah.
But the left will go crazy over it.
Right. Well, he doesn't want a Medicaid expansion.
Correct.
That's part of his plan. All right, let's move on to the Supreme Court for a second, guys. Senator Ted Cruz seems to think that another vacancy will occur as early as this summer. Watch.
I think we'll have another Supreme Court vacancy this summer. If that happens, as much as the left is crazy now, they will go full Armageddon meltdown.
Oh, my God.
All right, here's what he means. If Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg leaves the court voluntarily or involuntarily during the presidency of Donald Trump, she would presumably be replaced by a nominee who is her ideological opposite in virtually every issue. That's what he meant by Armageddon. If Justice Anthony Kennedy were to leave, and Justice Kennedy, candidly, this is known inside the Beltway, told friends as recently as 2 or 3 years ago, as soon as there's a Republican in the White House that he was comfortable with, he would consider leaving. And he's very, very comfortable with the appointment of Judge Gorsuch, who's one of his own former clerks. So if he leaves, you're going to have a battle. The Armageddon issue will be abortion, because Justice Kennedy votes with the liberals on the court on abortion, with the conservatives on the court on virtually everything else. When Justice Ginsburg leaves, the Armageddon battle will be over everything. Because this replacement for her will not.
I don't see Notorious RBG going anywhere. I mean, they're going to have to wheel her out if she actually takes off.
Why are all the swing votes on the court appointed by Republicans? I mean, if you really think about it, Kennedy,
that's a good point.
Souter was the same
became
a liberal.
That's right.
Before Kennedy, Sandra Day O'Connor was the swing vote.
That's
sometimes
funny, right?
all of these people, and I know Justice Kennedy well, and I know Justice O'Connor very well. She's a dear friend of mine, but she might get mad at me for this. Souter, Kennedy, O'Connor, Stevens, all were appointed as if they were small government Republicans. They got on the court and they became big government Republicans. Look at Earl Warren, about whom Dwight Eisenhower once said, the worst damn fool mistake I ever made. Now, I think he was a great Chief Justice, but he did not serve what the president who appointed him wanted him to do.
Yeah.
Correct.
Wow.
Thanks,
Great
guys.
insights, Judge. Great to see you.
Pleasure,
Thanks so much. Judge Andrew Napolitano there. And Fox Business Network is taking you live to the president's address tomorrow night to the joint session of Congress. Tune in, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here. We're going to be live and take you live to the president's address tomorrow night to Congress. First, though, coming up, collision course at the Daytona 500. What started the 17-car pileup on the racetrack next. And then the sky is the limit for one car manufacturer, the company behind the first commercial flying car. Yes, flying car. Back in a minute.